how 100 Years Wars shaped South Africa.
In front of me is Thabo Makhuphula, the first Nelson Mandela Scholar in 1995. This was the man who met Bishop Tutu at the University of Cambridge. It was Thabo Makhuphula who was given the honor to welcome and greet the reigning King of England, King Charles, at the University of Cambridge. He's standing here on the ranges of the Great Drakensberg Mountains. One of the interesting anomalies in the documented annals of the South African history is the continued omission of the history of the 100 years and how that history shaped in what today we call South Africa. We don't really learn much about that history or hear about it or being taught in the South African schools and universities. Yet, it remained one of the most important forgotten history which shaped what today we call South Africa. Why am I saying that? We are here today in this beautiful landscape of South Africa, the Drakensberg Mountains, in Indaba zoKhwahlamba. We're in a town here, as you see there in front of me, Harrismith. Whoever named this place Harrismith was a person who knew the man very well. Who was Harrismith? Harrismith is a veteran of the three wars. The Napoleonic War in Europe, the Battle of Alwal in India, and the two wars in South Africa. So I guess when they named this place then as Harrismith, it was probably a figurative, symbolic representation of the man naming a town towering the great legendary Drakensberg Mountains. What is interesting about him and this town is that, one, he never fought here in this part of the country. I guess he even visited this place at the time. Yet here is this town which bears his name. In the history of the 100 Years Wars, Harrismith was the man who faced uNkosi Maqoma, Jongumsobomvu, the son of Lwaganda Kamlayo. They faced each other in 1835 and faced each other again in 1850. Now you ask yourself then, how did it happen that they then decided to name this after him? You may recall that after Smith fought in Europe in the Napoleonic Wars, he was sent to South Africa. He became a commander of the British colonial establishment here. During the War of Insa in 1835, Smith faced Nkosi Maqoma on the shores of the Nquba River, Fish River in the Eastern Cape. When they faced each other there for the first time, Smith organized his armies into three columns. Maqoma decided to overstretch the British army by spreading his groups into small 10 columns. And then that rendered the British artillery obsolete. Subsequently, after 4 days of intense engagement, Smith was pushed back to Grahamstown. Hence, then the British army crossed the Kei River in a desperate act for victory, which resulted in the fall of King Insa on the 12th of May 1835. Then Maqoma called Smith for the second battle on the mountains of Mathole. The outcomes of that brutal encounter was that it marked the first decisive defeat of the British Army in Africa. Smith was fired and recalled. At the time, he was a colonel. He was sent to India. He then became a major general after he defeated the Indians in the town of Alwal in 1846. It was the very same Harry Smith who faced Maqoma now for the second time in the War of Mlanjeni on the 24th of December 1850. During the second year of the war, they were basically walking on the bones of their fellow combatants, and they couldn't take it any longer. Then Smith then was fired and recalled. He went back to Britain. About a few years later, then he succumbed to heart attack and departed. Again, still here, talking about how these 100 years wars shaped what today we call South Africa. One of the other outcomes of the war of Hintsa in 1835, as I said earlier on, was the firing of Smith. Secondly, it was the fact that the governor at that time, Sir Benjamin Durban, was fired and recalled. Interestingly, he didn't go back to Great Britain. He went to Canada. He stayed there until he died. Few years later, then a town in South Africa was called Durban. After that war again of Hintsa in 1835, the Dutch settlers decided to leave the Cape because they were bitter following the huge losses they suffered after that war. Consequently, they spread into various groups, and their movement in the long term resulted into the establishment of the province of Natal, Orange Free State, and Transvaal. If you move from here, going down to the Eastern Cape, there is a place called University of Fort Hare, which again was named after the Waterloo War veteran, Major General John Hare, the Knight of Hanover, who was not only defeated by King Sandile, but unfortunately he succumbed to heart attack on board Essex, Indiana. He was buried on the island of St. Helena in the Atlantic Ocean. If you go down to the Cape, today we call it Western Cape, there are also towns there called Somerset East, I think Somerset West as well. Those towns are named after one, the governor of the Cape Colony in the 1820s, Lord Charles Somerset, and his son, Major General Harry Somerset, who was one of the longest serving veterans in the wars of resistance. If you go to different parts of the world, the countries honor these victories as a form of encouraging the young to appreciate and understand the role played by their forebears. Maybe in South Africa, it's high time that we consider giving recognition to these 100 years wars, which involved a number of colorful figures. Major General Harry Smith, Major General John Hare, Major General Harry Somerset, Nkosi uChungwa, Nkosi uLanga, Nkosi uNdlambe, Nkosi uMdushane, Nkosi uMaqoma, Kumkani Sandile, Kumkani uHintsa, Nkosi uNqaphayi, Hermanus Matros of the Khoisan, they used to call him uNgqukumeshe, Nkosi Maphasa of the nation of Abathembu, the women who participated in those wars. I think it's quite time that we begin to recognize those wars, because the fact is, the legacy of those wars, which is Harry Smith, Durban, Fort Hare, Somerset, is still with us. So we cannot on one hand keep this legacy, but we still want to forget about the history which led into what we see today. Thank you so much. This is Jongi Class doing this recording with Thabo Makhupula.